Alright, today we are going to take a brief look at latitude and longitude. Now, latitude and longitude lines are imaginary lines that you can find on any globe or most maps. And these lines, as you can see here, they're kind of black, looks like a grid. These help us show absolute location. Now, in Chapter 1, you looked at absolute location. That describes exactly where something is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at lines of latitude. So first we're going to take a look at lines of latitude. Now, latitude lines are the lines that run horizontal across the globe. This is a flat map, but if it were a real globe, then you would see that the lines actually continue and circle all the way around. We start numbering lines of latitude at the equator. And the equator is in the middle of the globe and divides it into two different halves, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. When we number the lines of latitude, we always start with 0. It's kind of hard to see on the map here, but they're labeled at both sides, the left and the right side, at 0 degrees. These degrees are not temperature degrees, but degrees as in angle degrees, like in math. When you go over right angles and everything, you measure with numbers. There is one line for every single line of latitude going all the way up to the North Pole. Now, it's not labeled on this map because, again, it's a flat map, but the North Pole at the very top is going to be 90 degrees north, and the South Pole to the south is 90 degrees south. That is the highest number of latitude lines you can get to. This map shows each line of latitude at 15-degree increments. Because if they tried to put every single line of latitude on this map, you'd have nothing but solid black lines everywhere, and then you can't even read the map, so what good's that? When we go to the south, it's the same thing. You have the numbers from 0 going all the way to 90 degrees south. Now, what's special with the equator measurements is that the equator is not north or south. It can't be. It's right in the middle, so it's just 0 degrees. Sometimes, lines of latitude can be used to create the shapes of our states. So whenever certain states were created, sometimes they used rivers or mountains as boundary lines, but then they also used lines of latitude and longitude. Some of our states rest exactly on lines of latitude with their borders. So for example, if we take a look at 35 degrees north, which is located right here, and if we were to follow this line, we could see that the top part of Georgia rests on that line, as well as the top part of Alabama and Mississippi. Now the line cuts through Arkansas, so Arkansas does not have a border on that line. Another example could be 45 degrees north. If we follow this line, it's the top of Vermont. Also makes top of the border with New York. And if we keep following that line across, it actually makes up the southern border of Montana and the northern border of Wyoming. So sometimes states can share a border on a line of latitude. Lines of longitude work the same way, but they are opposite from latitude lines. Instead of going horizontally, they go vertically. And we start with the prime meridian. It has a special name like the equator for latitude, but the prime meridian divides our world into two other halves, the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. And it's also labeled like the equator at 0 degrees. But since it's in the middle, it is not 0 degrees east, it's not 0 degrees west, it's just 0 degrees. Now this map has also labeled its lines of longitude at 15-degree increments. So 15, 30, 45, and so forth. Unlike latitude, where the top number is 90 degrees, The largest number you can get with longitude is 180 degrees. And it's not east or west because it's kind of in the middle. Now, like what you saw with latitude, the numbers are going to be the same on each side. So the first line that this map has is 15 degrees east. That means the first line on the other side has to be 15 degrees west. Just like with latitude when we created the state shapes, longitude also helped make some of the boundaries. So for the United States, if we look at 100 degrees west, and if we follow that line down, there's only 2 states that have a boundary on that line. And those 2 states are going to be Texas and Oklahoma. It makes up this part of the panhandle of Texas and the western line here of Oklahoma. Another example, if we look at 120 degrees west, and we go upwards, it's going to create the border here between California and part of Nevada. Now that was a brief introduction on latitude and longitude, and for the next lesson we're going to put them together, and I will show you how to find absolute location using these lines.